Dave, let's start with the obvious, the justification, the reason for picking Quade starting at 10 this week.
Well, he's the best option. We think he's been with us for around 4 weeks. He's trained really well. We felt we still need more balance to our game, and he's got the skill set to deliver that, whether it's by hand or through his boot.
When you say he's the best option, is it purely based on right now you think he's better for the team than Noah, or is there, because there's a little train of thought out there that maybe Noah's low on confidence and needs a bit of a reprieve. Is that a consideration?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about low on confidence. He was disappointed with last weekend. We had a number of opportunities to nudge him behind him, and he's still growing his game management. I think it's an opportunity for him to sit back. Obviously take stock, and it certainly gives him time to reflect. We've talked about watching a lot of footy end on. When he goes into games, he's got a really good understanding where kicking space is potentially, and then confirming that on the field. And so he's still a young man. He's played, I think, 6 tests in a row this year, and we've been very happy with Quade, and I think he's the right man for the job.
So just to clarify, it's a selection on form?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a question out there around, because you've said this is a building and it's a 4-year window and stuff. There's a question, well, why go back to a guy who hasn't played in 4 years? Is this a stopgap? Is there a thought to Quade could be in the picture in a couple of years' time for that World Cup?
Oh, look, he could be. I mean, obviously, James O'Connor's not too far away from a return. He could be back in the next week or two. We're just picking what we think's best for the time, and like I said, Quade's been really impressive. Has contributed massively to the group around discussion. His experience has been great. He's got an arm around some young guys, and we couldn't be happier with him. He's certainly trained very well, and so like he's had another good morning this morning, and expecting to put that on the park in the weekend.
Online, guys?
Dave, would you like to see Quade come back and fly his trade in Australia at some stage? Would that be helpful, or are you happy with him playing overseas?
No, and look, we want a lot of guys to come back ideally. It'll strengthen Super Rugby and help with a lot of young men that we have playing with experienced players at club level. So, we would like that.
Dave, Rhys Hodge was only less than a year ago. He led the Wallabies to a victory playing at 10. Given that James O'Connor's returning soon, do you think you obviously don't think this, but how much consideration was there trying to learn a little bit more around Rhys Hodge and whether or not he can play 10?
Well, there was a huge amount of discussion around Hodge as well as an option at 10, and I'm not going to divulge all the reasons why, because we don't want to tip our hat to South Africa, but he was very much in the selection frame, and hence the reason he's on the bench.
Is it fair to say that was a more conservative option, and you don't think that the Wallabies will win by playing conservatively against the Boks?
Yeah, look, we certainly don't want to play conservatively, but we don't want to be reckless either. So Hodgie's been great, isn't he? He fills holes all over the place, and maybe that's his frustration. He's missed the fix-it, and he's played just about every position outside of 10 this year, and so I know he's keen to pin down a spot. He's certainly applying pressure.
And just off the back of 3 defeats, a side that's probably lacking a little bit of confidence, is there a bit of panic that's set in here? Like the fact that the Wallabies need a victory, and Quade's got 70 tests of experience, but let's be honest, he hasn't played in 4 years and hasn't played a match in 5 months.
Yeah, there's certainly no panic. We're basing selections on what we see. So some guys selections are based on recent test matches, and for Quade it's been training. And he's trained really well. He was very close to selection last week and got the nod this week. So, yeah, there's certainly no panic. We're trying to grow our game. We think he's the right man to help get us around the park.
How much as a leader, what can you say about him and what he's achieved? Obviously, equaling that record.
Yeah, look, he's been phenomenal. I think his form has been outstanding, and in a losing team, just as his work ethic. I've coached a lot of people around the world, and I've never seen anyone who trains as hard and plays as hard as he does. He's been incredible. So, you have 15 Michael Hoopers out there, you're pretty tough to beat. So, I think he's done a really good job. He's really grown his leadership and has huge amount of respect within the group, and he delivers on what he demands of others. So, a hell of an achievement for him.
Hey Dave, can you just kind of how much rugby Quade's been playing behind the scenes? Like, have you had any intra-squad matches? What's his workload kind of been? Because as Christy pointed out, he hasn't played a proper match in a long time now.
Yeah, we had a hit out against the Force last week, so everyone who wasn't in the 23 played in that game. So it was a 60-minute hit out, and he played all 60 minutes of that. So and was really strong. So it gives us confidence.
Just to clarify what day that was?
That was a day before the All Black test.
Okay, cool. And are you aware of the magnitude of this selection? Clearly it's been met with a lot of shock and surprise from Australian rugby fans. Are you aware of the significance of bringing a guy like Quade back at this time in a World Cup cycle?
So what do you mean?
As in, no one would have thought that this was possible. This is a guy who hasn't played in months, hasn't been in the Wallabies jersey for 4 years, and he's a guy who 2 years out from World Cup is now in that 10 jersey that's right up for grabs by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Look, I'm not sure about the reaction. As I said, we're picking the guy who we think can do the best job for us based on the cattle we've got. So he's certainly earned it. I can't speak highly enough of him. We had a good chat to Quade prior to him coming in, and I guess a lot of my knowledge of Quade was what I'd read in the paper previously, but he's been outstanding. So he's earned the opportunity, and as I said, we're picking on what we know and what we see, and he certainly deserves it.
Dave, do you risk muddying the waters? Like in 2019, there was 3 10s, and Michael Checker and the selection team, including Scott Johnson, didn't know who their best 10 was. And given that Quade's uncertainty around, we didn't even know if he was going to be part of the Rugby Championship going forward, but also the Northern Hemisphere test, are we going to be able to see Quade beyond this next month?
From a Reg 9 point of view, if we decided to pick Quade long term, then he'd be available.
Dave, can I ask how's Nala taking this news? Where do you sort of see his development now? Like, is it at the point where he needed a spell and you had to look for alternatives, or where do you sort of see his future at this point?
Oh, look, we rate him highly, and that's the reason he started so many tests. I do believe it's a chance for him to clear the head a little bit. We've got 4 tests in quick succession coming up, and he's desperate to be better, and we've gone through his game in detail again this week, and so he's learning quickly. We've talked a lot about the game management side of it, and it's a massive focus for him. So certainly he'll spend a bit of more time, and there's a chance to sit back and watch how other guys operate this week.
Did you toss up starting Nella this weekend after how many bench games had in a row? What was the rate?
We discuss all those sort of spots each week. We're anticipating Allan leaving the squad after this test. He'll head back to Canberra, whereas his wife Philo's due to have a baby next week. So that's probably the end of the Rugby Championship for him. So we'll get our pay in the flesh out of Allan this week, and knowing that we've got Nella and Ponifa Masili, who's been out injured, should be back hopefully in time for the Argentinians.
The Boks ended a pack in a pretty big second row as well. What do you read into that selection?
Oh, I mean, pretty predictable. It's pretty close to the side that played against the Lions. Incredibly strong and huge. So they're very physical. Yeah, so we know what's coming based on that selection. A 6-2 split speaks volumes.
Do you think the fact that the Quade selection, is that a retaliation of that in terms of them knowing what's coming? Like, is it a bit of the unknown might work in your favour?
Quade will play within a structure, and that's really important for us. So, but as I mentioned, he gives us balance, a really smart kicking game, and a quality skill set and any experience. So, if we just get into a straight arm wrestle with the Boks, they're tough to beat. And they're a very good defensive side. They've got a solid kicking game and are happy to play without the ball. We'll get a bit of ball in our hands, and how we use that's going to be important.
Dave, so much of Quade is around his playmaking abilities and the flick and fancy passes and everything, but you obviously rate his kicking game highly. Is that something that's underrated in the wider rugby sphere, do you think? And the key to unlocking, as you're saying, that space in behind that the guys haven't been able to do?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you got to be a triple threat. I think it's an area where James O'Connor was very good, and the best teams in the world are all very strong in that area. So, as we said, Quade's skill set will be really important. His experience will be really important, and I know he's really excited. I imagine he'll be anxious going into the game, his first test in a long time. But we brought him in to give us a bit of cover and to give us a bit of depth, and he's earned the right to play.
And Angus Bell, just his form off the bench, had demanded a start?
Yeah, look, when you look at bench, it's I guess Slips has a different role this week, and it's coming into the game. Even the guys when they're starting, they're playing, 45 or 50, and so he's got a slightly different role this week. But he's played a lot of footy. He could well give us a bit of tight head cover when Al leaves. So we're keen to give him a run off the bench, and I think Bally's been excellent as ball carrying. Gives us a point of difference.
Dave, when you were coaching the Chiefs, if you can roll back the memory years a little bit, what did you think when you came up against Quade, when you coached against him?
Yeah, well, we won it in 2012 and 2013, but we lost both years to the Reds, and Quade carved us up both times. So it's a wee while ago, obviously, but his ability to play on top of defences off quick ball and make smart decisions really stood out. So I know he was enemy number one for a long time from the All Black supporters, but I always had a lot of respect for his skill set. And I've got to know him really well over the last few weeks, and he's grown up, he's matured, he's desperate for another opportunity, and we look forward to seeing him wear the jersey again on the weekend.
Just going back to talking about Quade over Noah based on form, there's a lot of question around the form of Tom Banks. He's sort of in and out of games. Are you seeing something that we're not? I think it's probably fair to say he hasn't performed well consistently at very least. Are you seeing something we're not, or is there a lack of options?
Oh, we're probably seeing something you're not seeing, if that's the case. So I think, Tom, throughout the French series and early All Black games, really strong. He's very good under a high ball. Got a smart kicking game. I think he missed a few opportunities to link last week, which are things that we've spoken about. He missed a few opportunities to potentially turn the defence around, but we really rate him. He's got good gas. He's probably at his best when he's hovering around 10 and looking for opportunities back and around the ruck. And like I know there's been talk about Hodge as well, and he's definitely an option back there as well.
Has he done that enough for you, Tom, hovering around that 10 channel?
Oh, look, I think there's a number of things we've got to look after ball and to go deeper into phases to create opportunities around there. He's found a little bit of space in around there, and we obviously want to see as much ball in his hands as possible. We've talked a lot about getting him in at first receiver on short sides, and so he's starting to pop up there. We rate him. He's a good man, an important part of our team.